out of my way.
I told you to leave.
No,
No, stop it. You're going to kill me. Hey, stop hitting her. What are you doing?
The kick came so hard that old Mrs. Rita fell into the pile of tomatoes, her body crashing through the wooden crate as everyone in the market froze and stared. Blood trickled from her lip. Her son David stood over her, his face twisted with disgust, and spat on the ground near her head. He didn't even look back as he walked away, leaving his mother in the dirt and broken vegetables while the whole market watched in horror. Nobody knew that the old woman lying there in rags, with dirt on her face and tears in her eyes, had $17 million sitting in a bank account across town. Nobody knew that the beggar woman they pitied every single day was actually richer than everyone in that entire market combined. And David, the son who just kicked her like she was nothing, had no idea that his whole life was about to fall apart. This happened on a Tuesday morning in Lagos, at the Ajulegba market, where the sun was already burning hot even though it was barely 9 o'clock. Rita had been sitting in her usual spot by the cassava sellers, with her small bowl in front of her, wearing the same torn wrapper she'd worn for 3 years. Her hair was gray and uncombed. Her feet were bare and cracked. She looked like she had nothing, like life had chewed her up and thrown her away. Before we go any further, pause for just 1 second. Where are you watching this from right now? What time is it where you are? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if this story is already making you feel something, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because what you're about to witness will shake you to your core. Now let's continue. David had seen her there, his mother, sitting in the dirt like some homeless woman. He was on his way to meet his friends, dressed in his new shirt and expensive shoes, and there she was, embarrassing him. Again. He'd told her 1,000 times to stop this begging nonsense. He'd told her she was making him look bad, but she never listened. She just kept showing up at that market every single day with that stupid bowl, asking strangers for coins. So when he walked past and she called out to him, "David, my son," he snapped. The rage that had been building inside him for years finally exploded. He turned around, marched over to her, and before she could say another word, his foot connected with her side and sent her flying. The market women screamed. Some covered their mouths. Others shouted at David, calling him a devil, calling him cursed. But he didn't care. He pointed at Rita and yelled loud enough for everyone to hear. "This woman is not my mother anymore. She chose this life. She chose to embarrass me. I'm done with her." Then he walked away, leaving her there bleeding and crying while the market women rushed to help her up. But let me take you back. Let me tell you how it all started, because nothing in life is simple, and pain always has a story behind it. 25 years ago, Rita was a different woman. She was young, beautiful, full of dreams. She was married to a man named Joseph, and together they had one son, David. They lived in a small house in Mushin, and Joseph worked as a taxi driver while Rita sold vegetables at the market. Life was hard, but they were happy. They had each other. They had their boy. That was enough. Then one night, Joseph didn't come home. Rita waited and waited, packing the floor, watching the door, praying. At midnight, 2 police officers knocked on her door and told her that Joseph's taxi had been hit by a trailer truck on the expressway. He died instantly. She was 28 years old and suddenly a widow with a 6-year-old son and no money. The grief nearly killed her. For months she could barely function. She cried so much that David would wake up in the middle of the night and find her on the floor, sobbing into her hands. But she had no choice. She had to keep going. She had to feed her son. So she worked. She worked harder than any human being should have to work. She sold vegetables during the day. She washed clothes for neighbors at night. She took every single job she could find, no matter how dirty, no matter how exhausting, because David needed to eat. David needed school fees. David needed everything. And she gave him everything. Every single thing she had went to that boy. When David wanted new shoes, she went without shoes. When David wanted to eat meat, she ate only the bones. When David needed school books, she borrowed money from loan sharks who charged crazy interest rates and made her life even harder. But she didn't care. Her son was going to have a better life than she did. Her son was going to be somebody. David grew up watching his mother struggle, and instead of feeling grateful, he felt ashamed. He was ashamed that his mother was poor, ashamed that she wore old clothes, ashamed that she had to bow and beg and scrape just to survive. The other kids at school had parents who drove cars and wore nice things, and David wanted that. He wanted to be like them. So he started lying. He told his friends his mother was dead. He told them he lived with his rich uncle. He created this whole fake life because the truth was too painful, too embarrassing. Rita knew he was lying, but she said nothing. She thought it was just a phase. She thought he would grow out of it. She kept working, kept sacrificing, kept believing that one day David would understand, would appreciate, would love her the way she loved him. Then David turned 18, and everything changed. He finished secondary school with good grades, and Rita was so proud she cried happy tears for the first time in years. She'd done it. She'd raised her son and got him through school despite everything. But David didn't see it that way. The day he turned 18, he sat his mother down and said something that broke her heart into a million pieces. "I'm leaving," he said. "I'm going to stay with my friend's family. They have money. They can help me. You've done your best, but I need more than you can give me." Rita's hands started shaking. "David, what are you saying? I'm your mother. This is your home." "This isn't a home," he said coldly. "This is poverty. I can't build my life here. I need to go where there's opportunity." She begged him. She cried. She fell on her knees and held onto his legs and pleaded with him not to leave her alone. But David pulled away from her like she was diseased. He packed his bag and walked out of that house, and he didn't look back. For days, Rita couldn't move. She lay on her mat in that small room, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she'd done wrong. Where had she failed? How had her son turned into someone so cold, so cruel? The pain was worse than when Joseph died, because this was a different kind of death. Her son was alive, but he'd killed her heart anyway. But Rita was a survivor. She'd survived losing her husband. She'd survived poverty. She'd survived this too. So she got up, wiped her tears, and went back to work. Except now, something inside her was different. Something had broken. The hope that had kept her going all those years was gone. She started making bad decisions. She borrowed more money from dangerous people. She got into debt so deep she couldn't see the way out. And when those people came to collect and she couldn't pay, they took everything. Her small house, her possessions, everything. That's how Rita ended up on the streets. That's how she became the beggar woman at Ajulegba Market. For 3 years she lived like that, sleeping under bridges, eating from garbage bins, begging for coins from strangers who looked at her with pity or disgust. She saw David sometimes from a distance. He was doing well. He'd gotten a job at a company. He wore nice clothes. He walked with his head high, like he'd never known poverty, like he'd never had a mother who'd sacrificed everything for him. She wanted to approach him, to talk to him, to ask him why he'd abandoned her. But she was afraid. Afraid he'd reject her again. Afraid the pain would kill her this time. So she just watched him from afar, her heart breaking over and over. And then one day, everything changed. Rita was sitting under the bridge one evening when an old woman sat down next to her. The woman was different from other beggars. She was clean. She had kind eyes. She looked at Rita and smiled. "You look like you've lost everything," the old woman said. Rita nodded, tears filling her eyes. "I have." "Do you want to find it again?" Rita didn't understand. "Find what?" "Yourself," the old woman said. "Your power, your worth, do you want it back?" Something about the way the woman spoke made Rita pay attention. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I do." The old woman reached into her bag and pulled out a small card. "Go to this address tomorrow morning. Ask for Mr. Emmanuel. Tell him Mama Blessing sent you. He'll help you." Rita took the card with shaking hands. "Help me how?" "You'll see," the old woman said. Then she stood up and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. The next morning, Rita found the address. It was a law office in Victoria Island, in one of those tall glass buildings that rich people worked in. She almost turned back because she looked like a mad woman and didn't belong there, but something pushed her forward. She went inside, and the security guard tried to throw her out, but she showed him the card and mentioned Mr. Emmanuel's name. The guard's eyes went wide. He made a phone call. 5 minutes later, Rita was sitting in a beautiful office across from a man in an expensive suit. Mr. Emmanuel looked at her with such kindness that she started crying. "Mama Blessing told me about you," he said gently. "She said you needed help." "I don't understand what's happening," Rita sobbed. "I don't know who she is or why she helped me." Mr. Emmanuel smiled. "Mama Blessing helps people who deserve a second chance. Now, let me explain something to you. 20 years ago, your husband Joseph bought a small piece of land on the outskirts of Lagos. Do you remember?" Rita's breath caught. "Yes, he bought it with his savings. He said it was for our future." "That land is now worth $17 million, Mr. Emmanuel said. The room started spinning. Rita gripped the arms of the chair, thinking she was going to faint. "What?" "The government built a new airport near that land. Property values exploded. Your husband never registered the land properly before he died, so it's been sitting there all these years. Mama Blessing found out about it. She's a property researcher, and she helps widows recover lost assets. That land belongs to you, Rita. You're a very wealthy woman." Rita couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was hearing. Mr. Emmanuel continued, "I'm going to help you claim this land and sell it, but I want to ask you something first. What are you going to do with this money?" Rita sat there for a long time thinking about David, thinking about all the years of pain and suffering and rejection. And then quietly she said, "I want to help people like me, people who have nothing, people who have been thrown away." Mr. Emmanuel nodded like he'd expected that answer. "Then let's get started." Over the next 6 months, Mr. Emmanuel helped Rita claim her land and sell it. But he did more than that. He taught her about business, about investing, about managing money. He introduced her to people who could help her start a foundation for homeless women. Rita soaked it all in like a sponge, her mind sharp despite the years of hardship. But here's the thing. Even though Rita was now worth millions, she didn't change her appearance. She didn't buy fancy clothes or move into a mansion. She stayed in a simple room. She kept wearing her old wrapper. She kept going to Ajulegba market every day, sitting in her usual spot, because she wanted to understand poverty from the inside. She wanted to know exactly what the women she was helping were going through. She wanted to stay humble, stay connected, stay real. The market women didn't know. Nobody knew. Rita kept her secret close to her heart, quietly using her money to pay school fees for children, to start small businesses for struggling mothers, to feed families who had nothing. She became a silent guardian angel to dozens of people, and nobody had any idea. But she watched David. Oh, she watched him. She saw him walking through the market with his pride and his fancy clothes and his cold eyes. She saw him avoid her when he spotted her sitting there. She saw the disgust on his face when he looked at her, and her heart broke every single time. She kept hopping that maybe one day he'd soften. Maybe one day he'd remember that she was his mother, that she'd loved him, that she'd given him everything. Maybe one day he'd come to her and say he was sorry. But that day never came. Instead, what came was that Tuesday morning. That terrible Tuesday when David saw her in the market and his anger finally exploded into violence. After he kicked her and walked away, after the market women helped her up and cleaned her wounds, Rita sat there in the dirt and something inside her finally broke. Not broke like before, when she'd given up hope. Broke like a dam breaking, releasing years and years of stored-up pain and anger and grief. She stood up slowly. She looked at the direction David had gone, and she made a decision. "Enough," she whispered, "enough." That evening, Rita went home to her simple room and made some phone calls. She called Mr. Emmanuel. She called her foundation coordinator. She called a journalist she'd been helping whose daughter needed surgery. And she set things in motion. 3 days later, the story broke. It was everywhere, on the news, in the papers, online. Secret billionaire living as beggar reveals identity to help thousands. They interviewed Rita. They showed pictures of her foundation's work. They told the story of the widow who'd lost everything and found it again, who'd stayed humble despite her wealth, who'd dedicated her life to helping others. The whole city was talking about it, the whole country. Rita became famous overnight. People called her a saint. They called her an inspiration. They praised her humility and her generosity. And David saw it all. He was at work when his coworker showed him the news on his phone. At first, David didn't recognize the woman in the picture. Then the journalist said her name. Rita, the beggar from Ajulegba Market, his mother. David's hands went numb. He watched the interview, watched his mother speaking calmly and clearly about her journey, about her foundation, about her decision to live simply despite her wealth. And then the journalist asked the question that made David's world collapse. "Mrs. Rita, you have a son, don't you? He must be so proud of you." Rita's face changed. For just a moment, pain flashed across her features. Then she composed herself and said, "I have a son, yes, David. I raised him alone after his father died. I gave him everything I had. But he chose to walk away from me. 3 days ago, he kicked me in the market and left me bleeding in the dirt. He told everyone I wasn't his mother anymore." The journalist gasped. The camera zoomed in on Rita's face. "And how do you feel about that?" the journalist asked softly. Rita's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "I feel sad, not for me but for him, because he doesn't understand that money and success mean nothing if you've lost your humanity. I hope one day he learns that. I hope one day he remembers that love is worth more than gold, and that the people who sacrifice for you deserve your respect, not your kicks." The interview ended, but the damage was done. Within hours, David's face was everywhere. Someone had filmed him kicking Rita in the market, and now that video was going viral. Millions of people watched him assault his own mother. His name was released. His workplace was identified, and the backlash was brutal. People called him a monster. They said he was cursed. They said his mother should disown him. His phone exploded with messages, most of them hateful. His boss called him into the office and fired him on the spot, saying the company couldn't be associated with someone who'd committed such an act. His friends stopped answering his calls. His girlfriend broke up with him. In less than a week, David's entire life fell apart. He tried to go out, but people recognized him on the street and shouted abuse at him. He tried to hide in his apartment, but the shame followed him there. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop seeing his mother's face in his mind, the way she'd looked at him after he kicked her, the sadness in her eyes. And then one night, he broke. He fell to his knees in his apartment and cried like he hadn't cried since he was a child. He cried for all the years he'd wasted being angry and ashamed. He cried for all the times he'd rejected his mother's love. He cried for the boy he used to be, before pride and ambition turned him into someone he didn't recognize. The next morning, David went to the market. He walked through the crowds with his head down, and he went to the spot where Rita used to sit. But she wasn't there. The market women glared at him. "She doesn't come here anymore," one woman said coldly. "Why would she, after what you did?" "Please," David begged. "I need to see her. I need to tell her I'm sorry." The woman spat at his feet. "Sorry? Sorry doesn't fix broken bones. Sorry doesn't heal a mother's heart. You're too late." But David wouldn't give up. He asked everyone, searched everywhere, until finally someone told him about Rita's foundation. He got the address and went there, his heart pounding. The building was beautiful, modern, filled with women and children who were being helped, being fed, being given second chances. And there, in the middle of it all, was Rita. She was wearing a simple dress, her hair neat now, her face peaceful. She was talking to a young mother, encouraging her, supporting her. David stood at the entrance, frozen. He wanted to run to her, to fall at her feet, to beg for forgiveness. But he couldn't move. The shame was too heavy. Rita looked up. She saw him standing there. Their eyes met across the room. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Rita said something to the young mother and walked toward David. Each step she took felt like a knife in his heart. When she reached him, she stopped a few feet away, studying his face. "David," she said quietly, not son, just his name. "Mama," he choked out, tears streaming down his face. "Mama, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I was wrong. I was so wrong about everything. I was stupid and cruel and I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you, please, please forgive me." He fell to his knees right there in front of everyone, sobbing uncontrollably. The women in the building stopped what they were doing and watched. Rita looked down at her son, this man she'd carried in her womb, this boy she'd sacrificed everything for, this person who'd broken her heart more times than she could count. And she felt something shift inside her. Not complete forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. She knelt down in front of him, took his face in her hands and said, "David, look at me." He raised his tear-stained face to hers. "I forgave you the moment you kicked me," she said. "Because that's what mothers do. We forgive before we're even asked. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. You hurt me, David. You hurt me so deeply that I don't know if I'll ever fully heal, and I can't just pretend that didn't happen." "I know," David whispered. "I know, Mama. I don't expect you to forget. I just want a chance to show you that I can be better, a chance to be the son you deserved all along." Rita was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You see all these women here, these children, they've all lost everything just like I did. They've all been abandoned, rejected, thrown away. I'm helping them find their way back. If you really want to show me you've changed, then help me. Work here, serve these people. Learn what it means to give without expecting anything in return. Learn what I tried to teach you your whole life." David nodded frantically. "Yes, yes, I'll do it. I'll do anything." "It won't be easy," Rita warned. "You'll have to clean floors, wash dishes, listen to stories of pain and suffering, face your own shame every single day. Can you do that?" "I can," David said. "I will." Rita stood up and pulled David to his feet. "Then start tomorrow, 6 o'clock in the morning, don't be late." Over the next months, David showed up every single day. He did exactly what his mother asked. He cleaned. He served food. He listened to the women's stories and felt their pain and slowly began to understand what his mother had been trying to teach him all along. That wealth wasn't about money. That success wasn't about status. That the only thing that really mattered in this life was how you treated people, especially the ones who had nothing to give you in return. He watched Rita work tirelessly, saw how she treated every person with dignity and respect, saw how she used her money to lift others up instead of elevating herself. And he was ashamed of the person he'd been, but also grateful for the chance to become someone better. One evening, after everyone had gone home, David found Rita sitting alone in her office, looking tired. "Mama," he said softly, "can I ask you something?" She looked up. "What is it?" "Why did you stay at the market after you got the money? Why did you keep dressing like a beggar when you could have had anything you wanted?" Rita smiled sadly. "Because I needed to remember. I needed to remember what it felt like to have nothing, so I would never take anything for granted. And I needed to see if you would change. If one day you would look at that beggar woman and see your mother, see a human being worthy of love and respect, regardless of what she owned or what she could give you. I was hoping that maybe, just maybe, you would prove me wrong about who you'd become." David's throat tightened. "And I failed you." "Yes," Rita said simply. "You did. You failed spectacularly. But here's the beautiful thing about failure, David. It's not the end, it's just a lesson. A painful, terrible lesson, but a lesson nonetheless. and now you get to decide what you do with what you've learned. David knelt beside her chair. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you, not because I want your money or your forgiveness, but because you deserve a son who honors you, and I want to be that son. Rita reached out and touched his face gently, the way she used to when he was little. Then be that son, not just for me but for yourself. Be the man your father would have been proud of. And David did. He worked at the foundation. He gave up his pride, his ego, his old life. He learned to serve, to give, to love without conditions. It took years, but slowly, the relationship between mother and son began to heal. Not back to what it was, because you can't undo that much damage, but into something new, something stronger, something built on truth instead of obligation. Rita never forgot the kick. She carried that scar with her always, but she also carried hope, because she'd seen her son transform from someone lost to someone found, and that was worth more than all the money in the world. The foundation grew. They helped thousands of women. David became the director, using everything he'd learned to serve others. And when people asked him about his story, he told them everything. The good, the bad, the shameful parts. He told them about the day he kicked his mother, about the consequences, about the long road back to redemption. I thought I was better than her, he would say. I thought poverty made her worthless, but I was wrong. She was always the richest person I knew, rich in love, in sacrifice, in strength, and I was the poorest, poor in character, in gratitude, in humanity. It took losing everything to learn what matters. Don't wait that long. Honor your parents. Honor the people who sacrifice for you, because the day you kick them down is the day you kick yourself off the only path that leads to real peace. Years passed. Rita grew older, her hair completely white now, her body tired from all the work, but her spirit was strong. She'd built something beautiful out of her pain, and she'd gotten her son back, not the one she lost, but a better version, a humbled version, a version who understood what love really meant. One quiet evening, as Rita sat in her foundation's garden watching the sunset, David came and sat beside her. They didn't speak for a while, just sat there together in comfortable silence. Finally, David said, "Mama, I know I've said this before, but I need to say it again. Thank you." "For what?" Rita asked. "For not giving up on me, for showing me grace even when I didn't deserve it, for teaching me that it's never too late to change." Rita smiled and took his hand. "You're my son, David. I could never give up on you. Even when you gave up on me, even when you kicked me into the dirt, even then I was hopping, praying, waiting for you to find your way home." "I'm home now," David said, tears rolling down his cheeks. "Yes," Rita whispered, "yes, you are." And as the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, mother and son sat together, two broken people who'd found healing in forgiveness, in humility, in the slow, painful, beautiful work of rebuilding what was lost. The kick that had destroyed everything had also become the wake-up call that saved everything. And though the scars remained, they were scars of survival, of growth, of lessons learned the hardest way possible. Rita's story spread far and wide, not just because of her wealth or her generosity, but because of what she represented. She represented every mother who'd been abandoned, every parent who'd been rejected, every person who'd been kicked down and still found the strength to rise. And David's story spread too, not as a villain's tale, but as a warning and a testament. A warning about the poison of pride and the danger of measuring human worth by material success. And a testament to the power of genuine repentance, of changed hearts, of second chances earned through hard, humble work. The women at Ajulegba Market never forgot what they witnessed that Tuesday morning. They told the story to their daughters and granddaughters, and it became a legend in Lagos. The legend of the beggar billionaire and the son who learned too late that his mother's love was worth more than all the money in the world. And every time someone walked past that spot where Rita used to sit, they remembered. They remembered that you can never judge a person by their appearance, that poverty doesn't equal worthlessness, that the people you kick today might be the angels you need tomorrow. As for Rita, she lived the rest of her days knowing she'd done what she set out to do. She'd helped thousands find hope. She'd stayed true to herself despite the wealth. And most importantly, she'd gotten her son back. Not perfect, not fully healed from all the damage, but present, trying, learning, growing. And when her time finally came, many years later, David was beside her, holding her hand, whispering the words he should have said decades ago. "Thank you, Mama. Thank you for everything. Thank you for never stopping being my mother. Even when I stopped being your son, I love you." Rita smiled, squeezed his hand weakly, and closed her eyes for the last time, finally at peace. The foundation continued long after she was gone, her legacy living on in every woman helped, every child fed, every family given a second chance. And David ran it with the same humble spirit his mother had taught him, making sure that every person who walked through those doors knew they were valued, loved, and worthy, regardless of what they owned or where they came from. Because that was the lesson. That was always the lesson. That true wealth isn't measured in dollars or status or possessions. It's measured in love, in sacrifice, in how you treat the people who can't benefit you. And the richest person in any room is the one who understands that, who lives it, who gives it away freely without expecting anything back. That's what Rita knew. That's what she lived. And that's what she finally taught her son, through pain and forgiveness and the long, winding road back to each other. The kick that broke her body became the wake-up call that saved his soul. And in the end, that was worth more than $17 million. That was worth everything. Dear friend, what you just watched is only a glimpse of the full story. In the next video, I'll share a twist that no one expected, so be sure to be here when it premieres. I'm curious, what would you have done in this situation? Share your thoughts below. I'll be reading every single comment. Thanks so much for watching. I truly appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to see it.